Welcome everybody. Our weekly Surge Cast. Could be anywhere today, but you're here with us. We appreciate you. Look at that VIP section. Awesome. Welcome. Uh-oh, Don's driving. Watch out. There's Miss Denise and Dane. I see you. Beth Ann, Latoya, Karen, Mitchell. Got Mitchell on today. That's great.
I actually have my limo driver, Ryan.
Give everybody a couple minutes to come in, waiting for our special guest here, John. Good. Can't believe it's already the end of August. Pool's closing in a couple days. Got to get out there. That's Denise and Dane. Their pool never closes. Just the ocean over there. Golf. There is James Patterson. Cool. Jessica's on. That's cool. Look at that. Oh, there he is. The man. The myth, the legend, Mr. John McDonnell. Featured guest today. Awesome.
How are you?
Oh, is any better? I'd be twins or you. It'd be a good session. Thank you for taking the lead today.
No problem.
Basically, going to hand over the con to you, and you can go through your training today.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm getting an echo.
Yeah, I think it might be Mitchell. Thank you, Mitchell. Good.
All right, sweet.
Now we're good. Another minute or so.
Good.
It's just telling everybody I can't believe it's the end of August already. Woo. Been a busy year.
It has been.
It's a good thing.
Oh, we got some of my pack on.
Good sprint for the next 60 days, and then get some R&R and hit it hard again for the beginning of next year.
Yeah, it's almost Q4, which
right.
That's the mad solar rush.
Yeah, right now, basically in Resi, it's you got to get all your contracts signed between now and the next couple of weeks if you want to get in them too by the end of the year. And then my experience, at least in commercials, a lot of the budgets are getting redone and reset for the next fiscal year. So you're gonna want to make sure you're on those budgets if you're selling something. Okay, folks, welcome to another edition of the Surge Cast. And if we're recording this, let's start the recording now. I think we've got that going. Terrific. I am your host, but I'm basically going to hand over the con to the one, the only, the legend, John McDonnell, the owner and operator and leader for SunRenu, one of our top VIP, MVP partners. And not just from a construction development standpoint, but also from a training standpoint. Just so that you all know, if you're on live, you know this already, but if you're tuning in on the recording, Surge is here to make a huge change in the way that we electrify our grid. We're especially focused on the commercial and community solar aspects. And if you're new to the industry, that means, hey, where'd you get your electricity from today? How'd you like to get it from a better source than where you're getting it? In addition to that, we're connecting partners like John, who'll be featured today, developers like you. We have new finance partners and equipment partners, brought on some new people this past week. Just talked to some new lead gen partners as well. Over 100 new subscribers, active projects. In just the last couple of months, we have a goal for another 100 folks that we want to sign up between now and the end of September. Got a couple of conventions and a couple of different promotions that I'll be running between now and then. but especially for this first group of folks, thank you for being leaders and co-owners on this platform and driving our success. So without further ado, I'm going to take a back seat here. And John, the floor is yours, man. What are we talking about today?
Thanks,
Who
Emmett.
are you? What are we talking about?
John McDonnell, owner, founder of SunRenu Solar. It's a 16-year-old EPC. All we do is commercial. So we've built just about everything, carports, rooftops, superstructures, building integrated, you name it, we built it. And then I also founded and started Watt Hub. So that was the connection between Surge and Watt Hub. We do a lot of, we're also a tech platform, does a lot of utility analytics for the industry, but mainly we're a developer. So we have information, boots on the ground just about everywhere in the country. So that's where the experience comes from. What we're going to be talking about today is what makes a good deal, what makes a mediocre deal or a so-so deal, and then what makes a bad deal for commercial. So we all want to get into commercial. There's a lot of education that comes from residential to commercial that people need to know. I like to say that we're going to save your time. So you're not going to like what I have to say all the time on the projects that you submit, but we're going to save you a year of your life trying to put a round peg through a square hole. So jumping into it, when Allie and I spoke, I think it was 2 weeks ago, we were just talking about this and what makes a good deal. And I'm a visual guy, so I put this together for the class. So commercial deal probability matrix. We've done over 10,000 unique commercial solar proposals. And so we have 275 pages of helioscope, project lists. We have 10,000 projects that we've done. And so we have the data to really crunch and see what's going to close. Some low probability deals close. It's all dependent on the champion that we talked about in prior podcasts. So looking at this, you've got avoided costs. Avoided cost on the left is what the customer saves. And this is not derived from residential solar software. This is derived from commercial software, particularly Energy Toolbase. No other way to get accurate commercial solar savings with demand-based rate plans. And demand-based rate plans are 99% of commercial. So you got your avoided cost on the left, you got your EPC cost on the right, and you've got at the bottom axis, you've got your system size. This is just a guide. This does not mean that your deal falls into this probability, but this is what I would say a good rule of thumb is. And we're going to be talking about deals. We're going to be showing layouts, constructability. We're going to be diving into the analytics to show what makes a good deal and why. So keep that in mind when we're looking at this. Low probability deals, we say avoided cost has to be double digits, or else we don't really want to look at. Where I see a lot of projects in Surge are falling in this range. Sub 50, 75. That's tough. That's a tough deal because you get no economies of scale from the contractor. It's a small project, so they need to make an ample margin. A lot of contractors don't even want to build it. And then, you're stuck with a customer with a low avoided cost. So Midwest, some East Coast, Texas and Florida, a lot of it falls into this low probability category. And it's unfortunate, and it's not my opinion. This is data. Once you get above the 10-cent range, line in the sand is 10, you start getting into your medium probability where it's a compelling case for the customer to go solar. We're looking for the wins, folks. We're looking for the win for the customer. We're looking for the win for the contractor, and we're looking for the win for the rep, the referral partner, to make a commission. All three wins need to be there. And when you get into a customer that's hard-nosed and a negotiator, they just want to win. They don't want anybody else to win. Not a great deal. Save your time. Disqualify it. When you can find a good customer, which is what we call a champion, that's going to sometimes put you into the medium and high probability, even if you technically from this graph should be in low probability, because the champion makes things happen. If they want to go solar for the right reasons, they will go solar. And it might not be financial. But deals in California, we see this range. New England, this range. So those are good areas. The good solar states are the good solar states. Solar states with SRECs, solar states with high energy costs, good solar states. So just looking at this, if you're farming deals and you're at 20-cent solar savings, you can get your $4 a watt. You can make a lot of money. And EPC cost has everything to do with the installation type too. So if you think of carports, you're going to be up here. If you think of rooftop, you're going to be in here. And depending on how big it is, obviously. So just some rules of thumb to think about. And a lot of reps and customers come to us and they say, why won't my deal work? It's because if they have 8-cent avoided costs and it's in Texas and they want carports, no way you're going to get it for $2 a watt. No way. So just some things to think about. We usually dice that up and go back to the customer and say, hey, it's got to be rooftop or you get nothing. And here's why. So
Hey, John, this is really fantastic. If you don't mind, just take a pause so people
Yep.
can absorb and digest your wisdom.
You got it.
There's no opinion here. These are facts.
Yep.
This math. You use the farming analogy. I'm a fisherman. If you're going to go fishing for marlin, you're going to take a different set of tackle with you, different set of bait with you, and you're going to be on a different boat than if you decide you want to, grab some trout off the stream.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so as people are learning this matrix, the avoided cost of power is what they are paying now to the grid. So it's a very easy calculation when you look at a utility bill. It says it right there. Distributed, generated, combine those together. You have something in the range of 4 cents. I don't know where 4 cents is anymore, but up to 24, even up to 50 in some cases, right?
Right.
So that's the first thing you want to look at when you look at the feasibility. You got to pass that test first, right? The second is the bigger the scale of that project is. So you see 50 kW on the left. I mean, basically, I've really personally never entertained anything less than 50. The bigger the scale, the lower the leverage, the higher the leverage is in terms of pricing. So check off your left axis first, avoided cost. Then you can do some back of the envelope math on how big that system might be based on their usage. Okay, so you get price per kilowatt hour, then you get usage per year, right? And then let John and his team and our other partners go to work on putting together the right architecture.
You got it.
All right. If you have questions or comments, drop them in the chat. Every time I give John a chance to drink some water, take a breath, we're going to address some of those questions. Thank you, John. Let's keep going.
Yeah, let's keep going. So we're going to look at real life examples. We're going to look at real deals that we've developed, real deals that we're actually moving forward, and then deals that we've disqualified, just so you can get an idea of what Emmett said. The feasibility of a project has everything to do with the savings, the system size, and the EPC cost. It's a big martini shaken up and poured out, and those three things describe if a deal is high, low, or medium probability. So looking at, one of our projects we've got under contract that we're going to start permitting on is the commercial HOA in California. As you can see here, we get 19 cents a kilowatt hour. If you go back to the deal probability matrix, you're in the high probability category, because anytime you're saving a customer that much money, you can do carports, you can do rooftop, and it's a 310 kilowatt job. So this is about average for us. We build some that are 100, 150, and then some that are 1 megawatt. Our lane really isn't the 20, 50, 100 megawatt projects. It's very political. We like to stay in our small, medium C&I space. So we're very good at this space. But this is what makes a good deal. In my opinion, it's one. There's 1 meter too, so that does help. It's not multi-metered. But this, constructability. This again, the avoided cost opens up everything. Like it dictates what we can do. If this was 14, we would have to delete the carports and try to fit as much as we can on the roof and just go with that, because that makes a compelling case. That makes a win-win-win scenario. Because if this was 14 cents, then the PPA to this customer would have to be 13 cents or less, and we can't build carports in a small PPA. The PPA company won't pay you enough to make any money, so it's one-sided. It makes sense. Any questions?
You had mentioned the 1 meter. Why does that make it more simple or simpler, if you will?
Points of interconnection just add to the complexity of a project. If this had 5 points of interconnection, we would have to do 5 engineered drawings, 5 interconnection applications, 5 submissions, 5 everything. Not so much permitting. We can permit the job under one project, but we'd have to have, the engineered set would be 100 pages long. So
why would a facility have more than 1 meter?
if this building is multi-tenanted, so let's say it was individually metered instead of master metered, each tenant inside this building would pay for their own electricity if it was individually metered.
Really good point. So if you're looking at a multi-tenant facility and you get this unicorn that John's got here, good for you, right? But in other cases, you're going to have meters for each facility or tenant. Now, if you have one facility, right, John, you might have multiple meters for what reason?
Well, it could be, like we do a lot of apartment buildings too, and so the apartment buildings that are master metered, they have a residential meter, they have a house meter, and then they have one for like exterior lighting, or they might have 3 meters, which can be done.
Yep.
As soon as you start getting 4, 5, 6 plus meters, 20 meters, 100 meters, it's just an engineering nightmare. And unless the state that you're in and the utility allow for either virtual net metering, aggregation, or some sort of policy that allows for one interconnection spread across multiple, you're barking up the wrong tree. This is what makes apartment buildings so hard to do. Right. And even in California, where they save a ton of money, the policy of NEM 3 basically wipes out the benefit of virtual net metering and aggregation. So there's no reason to do it.
Yeah, let's slow down there again. And again, for some of us like you and John, we've done this for decades. So I know it's coming in hot and fast, and let's slow it down and freeze frame and look at the telestrator here for a second. So just remember, you've got your avoided cost of power and you get the size. You also have to take into consideration, we need all the bills, which means if there's multiple meters, you can have multiple bills, right? So that's important. Now, you did mention something about aggregation and virtual net metering. I happen to have done a 400 net metering project in Southern California, Edison. Can you just touch on the definition of that, what we're talking about? And particularly, this was a multi-unit retirement home housing area.
Yep,
so
great.
So you could help that educate folks, that'd be terrific.
Yeah, aggregation and virtual net metering are very similar. So I'm going to talk about them in concept, where you interconnect to 1 meter, and the utility company, they make you add a second meter. It's called an NJOM meter. And then basically that meter dictates where all the power goes. So it spreads the power over the rest of the meters, so the tenants or the other meters get benefited from the one interconnection point. And that was super sweet in California. Apartment buildings could be done, multi-tenant office buildings could be done. And then when NEM 3 hit, there's an export, a buyback rate, and that basically voided a lot of the benefits of virtual net metering and aggregation. So it's a utility-based policy saying, hey, we'll take care of the spread of the energy over the other meters. You just need to interconnect into one.
Terrific. Thank you. Folks, digest that. Again, I'm seeing some comments in the chat. Keep them rolling. We'll have an open discussion here in about 20, 25 minutes when John gets through his main body of work. Please continue, sir.
You got it. All right. So good deals are good deals, right? Deal probability matrix. If they save enough money, you're good to go. Let's look at a so-so deal. And I brought this one out because this one is it's a bigger one. It's 913 kilowatts, and it's in Colorado. And Colorado is one of those states where it's hit or miss. They have a tiny little rebate, but their avoided cost of power is really low. And you would think that when you got this prospect, you'd be like, oh, it's a slam dunk. It's almost a megawatt. Yes, we can build it for really, really cheap, low twos, if not under that. But the avoided cost of power. So let me show, where's my screen? Let's do this. So we're going to bring this over here. So this is the raw data behind the project. And so if you're looking here, 8.1 cents avoided cost. If you can see my cursor, 8.1 cents is all this customer saves, and that's low. It's under double digits, but it's big. So that's what it makes it a so-so deal, because we can get economies of scale down to that $2, maybe sub $2 a watt EPC price to make a compelling case for the customer. 7.1 year ROI on a cash purchase. Remember, I think I said it in the last webinar, 7 years is the line in the sand between compelling case and non-compelling case. And it also is the same line in the sand where you could throw a loan on it and it cash flows for the customer day one. But we need to be cautious of this 7.1, because if it's filled with tax credits, if it's got low income and energy community and domestic content, and you're looking at a 60% ITC, and this is 7 years, that means you'll never pencil a loan on it. So it's artificially low ROI. And so these are all the calculations that go into the back end per meter, system size. And then we also look at, if we lowered the system size, is that a better savings? Is that a better avoided cost where we can do something with? And sometimes it is. So we don't try to go for 100% all the time, because that might break the deal. If you look at exports, this is in Colorado, so I think they have some form of net metering. If this was in California, this 8.1 would be even lower, because they're exporting 51% of their energy. So if we got rid of that export, or we minimize that export for the 5 cents on average that the California utilities pay, there's a better deal in there, and we will find it. So that's part of our development process. It's part of our utility analytics to go in and find, where is the win-win-win? It's got to be somewhere in here. And so that's kind of what we focus on. So I'll stop there for so-so deals. And
yeah, Colorado's tough. I've done a bunch of jobs in Colorado. Number one, they're pretty challenging to deal with overall as a utility in the AHJs. But yes, the avoided cost of power is low, and the incentives are just to fluctuate all the time, right?
yeah,
So you gotta stay on top of that. That being said, there's a magic number here that John talked about, and it's the number 7. Could you
Yep.
rewind on that again? And then if you're going to do it here, that's great, because I see the line, but if you're going to do it later, that's fine. Can you talk about demand charges too? I think that's a very important topic for people to understand also. So
you got it.
number 7 in demand charges, please.
You got it. No, 7-year ROI. It just is the magic number, right? So 7.1 years, you'll get all your money back in 7.1 years. So if you have a champion, which is number one thing you need in a commercial solar deal, so they want it, and you show them a 7.1 year ROI and they need the tax credits, all right, now we're in medium probability, like we can sell this, we can get this through. Also, if we dropped our EPC cost a little bit and got this to 6.8 or 6.9 years, now we could throw a loan on it and it will cash flow. So we can say, hey, owner, why don't we put 100% loan on it? And the only thing you're responsible for is, so after you monetize your tax credits, you're taking 30% and you're putting it back into the loan. And so we could set that up, wrap it in a bow for you. That's a compelling case. They're like, so I don't have to put any money down. I get to go solar for the right reasons and save money and get all these tax credits and put basically a down payment later after I get my tax credits and depreciation. That's a compelling case.
Yeah, that number is it's not a secret number, but just remember 007 in James Bond. It really is the pivot point, right? It's the fulcrum shift. It's the tipping point for a bunch of reasons. If you ever sat in a CFO's chair, IRR is going to be a key number. IRR is initial rate of return. That basically is something they compare to the other assets and expenses and expenditures they have. So it's very easy for a CFO, at least in my opinion, to go, wow, we have this, and it's not giving us the kind of IRR that this solar is. It's called an asset reallocation. I sell that all the time in commercial and resi. If your 401k is performing at less than 17% IRR and I can get you a solar system at 17, what are you going to do? You're going to move your 401k, right? So 7's a key number. John, thank you for that. You want to talk about demand charges a little bit?
Yeah. Demand charges, if you're not familiar with demand charges are on the bill, and they're on just about every commercial utility bill. If you turn all your lights on and all your HVACs on and everything on in your building, you're going to spike your demand charge. You get a charge on your bill for how much energy you pull at one 15-minute period. So if you turn everything on that you can in your building at one time, then you're going to spike your demand charge. Demand charge is a secondary charge in addition to kilowatt hour charges that usually are 40 to 50% of the bill in some case. And so if their demand charges are peaked at nighttime, then solar will not touch their demand charge. If their demand charge is during the day, the only way to find that out is with interval data, put it into Energy Toolbase and have it spit out the accurate demand charge reduction.
Take that as an example so people understand the practical scenario, right? I've sold distribution manufacturing facilities. I sold the largest, what do you call it, stained glass kiln. And one of the ways we approached that, John, to your point, is they ran 3 crews. And, one way in California is you have the battery take care of that spike, right? Because you're going to run that crew at night when it's cheaper. It's easier to run. Another way is just consumerism, right? Teaching the folks how to better use their electricity, maybe change the shifts. But the only way you can get around demand is if, yes, you have enough energy during the day when solar's kicking in, or you have a battery. I don't know if you have any other thoughts on that or any other practical applications that folks can understand. Like, where are you going to always see demand charge? What industries, what typical customers, where should be looking for this?
Manufacturing is always going to have demand charges. Office buildings, anything in Texas, they all have demand charges. Florida has huge demand charges. That's why Florida and Texas are the worst markets for commercial. They just fall into low probability. Their avoided cost is low because of demand charges, and it's a tough market.
Great, thanks for that coaching.
So let's look at
questions
some
in the chat. Keep going, John.
You got it. TTV. All right, we're going to take a look at this one. This one's in California, so you think it's a good deal. But the only place to put solar is carports. There's a bunch of stuff on the roof. You could fit 10, 15 kilowatts up here. So they need 140 kilowatts is what would be 100% of their power. But again, it's in California where you need to be conscious of designing to 100%. You typically don't want to do it. So let me pull up the analytics behind this one. And this is why this makes it a so-so deal, even in California, is because you've got a cash purchase of a 5.7-year payback. It's phenomenal. Like, that should be sellable all day long. But they only pay, because this is Imperial Irrigation District, it's only 13.3 cents. So we're coupled with a high cost because it's a small project. It's all carports, which equals high cost. And then you're only dealing with a 13.3 cent avoided cost, which puts it into a medium probability deal. This owner is also a negotiator and wants it for free, basically. And so he's grinding us to try to get a special deal for him. But it's hard. So you'd think in California this would be a good deal, but it's just an example of they don't save as much as normal California investor-owned utilities do, but it's all carport and it's small. And this is why we say you want 100 kilowatts and above projects, because there's no room, there's no wiggle room, there's no economies of scale and underneath that. And then finding a contractor to do it that's qualified for commercial is like nearly impossible. Every contractor will tell you, oh yeah, we do commercial, but do they really? We kind of sit in an industry where most people lie, and it's unfortunate, it sucks, but you got to do your diligence on them. So this would be considered a medium probability deal. We're trying to bring in finance for it. And again, you see a 5.7-year payback, but it's from big tax credits because it's energy community and so forth.
Sure. Going back to the fishing analogy, IRR, Imperial Irrigation District, that's got to be wet. Palm Springs, Coachella, that type of thing. These munis, unified utilities have a whole different set of rules against them. So if you're going to sell in Glendale, California, or Burbank, IRR, you name it. There's these munis all over the US. Make sure you do your research there. And if you have a mentor that brought you on board, ask him, am I fishing in the right place? Right? Do I have the right tackle? Do I have the right bait? Thank you, John.
No problem. We're going to take a look at.
If you want a personal training session, I think John is charging $500 an hour these days for a personal coach.
I don't know if that'll cover it.
I can't even get them for that.
So here's another one. It's in California. You'd think it's a good deal, but the only space that this facility has is a couple panels on the roof, but then carports. And it's just, this is a constructability fail. So one of the things when you get a commercial prospect, you want to check two things. You want to check, what's the average bill? Is it more than $3,000 a month? Awesome. Let's try to run with it. Second thing you want to check is look at the aerial image. See where is there space to install. Here, this is awful. Like you see power lines right here that put a setback so we can do carports. It's 33 kilowatts. You can't get a carport under $2 a watt for 33 kilowatts. So that's where economies of scale blows us. This is like a $6 a watt project. It blows up because of constructability. So this is what makes a bad deal. Small, high cost. Questions?
Constructability. Whew, that doesn't matter at all. Now, where are you going to put this thing? That's always one of the bigger questions, right? Once you get past the bill, now you know the magic numbers, right? Where are you going to put this thing? What's it going to take to put it there? Jeez, absolutely.
Another classic. So car washes and gas stations, right? The automotive center that use tons of power. So inside a convenience store, there's walk-in coolers for days. Inside of a car wash, they're pumping water like nobody's business. They use a lot of energy. They are terrible, terrible customers. They're prospects. This is a gas canopy. As you can see, it wasn't built for solar. So somebody paid us for this proposal and said, just do the proposal and put it here. I'm 99% sure that this is not going to pass structural. So where else do you put solar? There's no place for roof. You're too close to the street. There's no parking. Like, this is just a bad prospect. So car washes and gas stations can get done, but I would spend little time on them because they're just harder. Just the footprint harder, constructability is harder. And if they're anywhere outside of California, they probably don't save a lot of money.
Could be bait fish, though. Going back to the fishing analogy, could be bait fish for somebody like a Don Thomas Nestor. I know we're focusing on SunRenu today, and I love how you're just laying it out. Bad idea. Don't waste each other's time, but maybe an energy management system might work for them.
That's true. You want to get as much efficiency as you can. And so here's the last example of a bad deal.
Where's this one?
West Virginia, baby.
West Virginia.
West Virginia. It's a huge gas plant, I think. We were under development for this, and there's a lot of, it's big, right? It's 8 megawatts. You'd think, oh, I got this gas plant. They've got room for solar. It's going to be great. Well, let me pull this over. Pull over the analytics. Even at a low cost, we were at $150, $160 a watt to do all this. You're still at an 8.6 year ROI, which makes it a tough sell. Look at the avoided cost down here, 5.4 cents a kilowatt hour. West Virginia, Virginia, Tennessee, Florida, Texas, they're all going to have that 5 to 8 cent avoided cost if they're in a general utility. And so that's what makes them hard to pencil, because 8.6 cents, unless they have cash, unless there's a goal, a corporate goal, an ESG goal that they need to hit, this is a tough sell. Because once you strip away all the tax credits, you're at like a 20-year cash on cash ROI. And a lot of CFOs will do that math. Net present value probably wouldn't pencil out. Net present value might be negative. So we tried all different ways. We try to expand the project, big, small, make it cheaper, all different ways. But I would consider this a low probability project because once they see, you know, the savings per kilowatt hour,
Right.
You can't put a loan on this. So that's the other thing is savings per kilowatt hour, unless it's double digits, you can't put a loan on it. It won't cash flow.
That's huge. So you heard a couple rules of thumb. We just talked about the magic number 7, avoided cost of power minimum 10, right? Double digits to finance. I mean, those are 3 gems, lightning strikes by Obi-Wan Kenobi over here. Free stuff today. And by the way, we have 107 subscribers in the last couple months. Our goal is to have another 100 here by the end of September. And we got a couple shows that we're going to be at. So please continue to tout the level of training, and please continue to have the opportunity to work with a world-class partner like John and his team. And where are you going to get this? Where are you going to get this?
No, it's good. I want to save everybody time. So
If
you've got 20 to 50 kilowatt deals, unless they're paying cash is king, right? So you got to have the conversation in the first or second meeting that how do you plan to pay for this? And if they don't have an answer, then the right parameters need to be in place. They need to be a champion. Their avoided cost needs to be double digits. The EPC cost needs to be down to where it's constructible. And all those 3 things need to equal a win-win-win, or else there's no deal. So we look for the wins as a commercial developer. And we find that through our utility analytics, which goes through pretty rigorous. Like we have 4 people that touch every proposal that we do. And then finally my eyes go on.
Wow. So you actually have 4 people before it gets to you. That's awesome. Can you tell us a little bit about how that process works?
This is on the Watt Hub side. So Watt Hub is the tech platform. You submit a project and it goes through 4 people, and then we do a final review. And it takes about 5 to 7 business days to get through a proposal because
listen up. He says it's like it's totally matter of fact. Okay. Sorry, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're our only hope here. The opposite of action is distraction, but you have to let things go, right? Newton's 3rd law of physics. You have to get rid of something to move something forward, right? What John's teaching us here is this is $1 million worth of knowledge. So you just heard him say it takes about a week to get it through the initial vetting process to get to John. All right, so maybe you could freeze frame us in terms of those 2 or 3 things that make it take a week so that it can get to you, John. Because we don't want you to be distracted. I don't want anybody on this platform to be distracted and trying to catch the wrong fish, right?
You got it. So it gets submitted. The usage gets compiled into an Excel sheet. If there's interval data, that's kind of saves us a step. So that gets dropped into Energy Toolbase. Then it goes to our designer. So we have Kevin do the compilation. We have Matthew do the design work. And so he looks fire setbacks, property line setbacks, constructability. We look at 4 different aerial images to see if we can understand the building. So we look at Google, we look at Bing, we have our helioscope software, we look at Google Street Views, and then we also look up if we're still not aware of what type of roof it is, then we'll look up the county assessor's office and try to do the GIS map, parcel map, and zoom in on a bird's eye view. So we need to understand the property going in. We don't just crank out proposals. We are not a solo. We are not a solar graph. we do things right for commercial. And so it takes understanding the property. And we get about 150 proposals submitted per month. We disqualify about 50 to 60 because we just know that the cost savings isn't there, constructability is not there. But if it passes through those 2 things, then we'll go into a proposal. And that's where Evan touches it. And he is an Energy Toolbase wizard. Like he rate schedules, net metering caps. We have logs a mile long of what utilities across the country, co-ops, everything, what their policies are. So we know in SREX, we know what rate plans are good, what to switch them to. That's another thing you'll get with us is like, hey, if they're on a certain rate plan and a different rate plan post solar would benefit them, that's what we're going to propose. And it's going to show a more compelling case. And
Yeah, just
when
take a
Evan's
pause
done
on
with
that,
it,
John. Just to take a pause. I know there's a lot of people that are digesting. The rate plan analysis post solar is extremely important. If somebody just slaps on another rate plan without going through the due diligence that John and his team are doing, that could be a significant variance in the IRR, right?
big time. Yeah.
I mean, especially when we're talking demand charges, right? In my experience, I mean,
Yeah.
that's a big deal, folks. So think about the two things now. So there's another magic number, is 3-to-1, right? So if you're disqualifying 50 out of 150, right? That's a 3-to-1, right?
Mhm.
You have to put 3 deals that are somewhat good in the system to get one proposal. So don't fall in love with one proposal or one opportunity, right? So John, did you want to add a little bit on that?
Yeah, I mean, close ratio, people ask us all the time, what's our close ratio? If we procure it and we have the relationship with the customer, that the champions there, we're probably about 20 to 25%.
Yep. Okay, that's good math, folks. Absorb that and understand that your ratio has to fit that. And especially if you're new, it's probably going to be lower, right? But that's key. That's so key. And the after rate plan, at least I've seen this, John. I've won and lost a few deals because we actually either recommend the right or the not so right after solar rate plan. And there's hundreds of them in certain utilities, right? That's key, folks. And an energy tool base, which I've always used, is very clear on, I don't know, page 7 or 8, depending on what how many pages you have in there. It tells you exactly what that plan is and why they picked it. Thanks, John. Keep going, man.
We look at all of them.
Let's shoot for about 5 more minutes. If that's cool, we open it up for questions.
Yep, that's it. So I would say close ratio without us is probably less than 1%. And that's just for the amount of deals. And some channel partners just want the proposal. And so we'll give them the proposal. And they submit 20 deals per month over month, and they don't get deals done. They're just not presenting them right. They don't have the qualifications, the capabilities. There's changes. And so we do our best to minimize changes. There's always unforeseen conditions, but changes kill deals. Changes, oh, you didn't realize my roof was standing seam and you thought it was a ballast and it's pitched. Like those things hurt your credibility. And so that's why we go through such an in-depth process to understand the building as if we are there standing, looking at it, seeing what our means and methods would be.
Great. John, you have some great case studies on your website. If you want to drop your website on the chat. Again, some of you have already worked with John and his team, but if you haven't, one of the things I suggest when you guys book time for me, and yes, I'm giving it for free like John is right now, is we're going to coach you on how to approach and who to approach. So if you drop that in there, that'd be great. And maybe you could talk about how people can use those case studies if they're approaching prospects. And then we'll open it up for questions. Like I think you have a church on there, you have some USDA REAP grants on there. I mean, if anybody wanted to leverage that in their prospecting, how would you do that? Or would you?
Yeah, we don't like other people grabbing our paper and presenting it as if we're partners. We want to be a part of it. I think we can bring the valuable experience to close the deals and give the commercial customers, warm and fuzzies based on our experience, credibilities, and we can answer any question under the sun. So we have a statement of qualifications that we'll go in and be like, here's everything about our company. Here's a bunch of projects. Like, here's a bunch of references. Here's our licenses. Here's what accolades we have. SunRenu has been on the Solar Power World Top Contractor list for 15 years.
Yep.
So we've been on there for 15 years. So I reached out to one of my contacts over there. I'm like, it'd be special.
15 out of 17 years, is that right? So
I think it's close to all of it. And so I'm like, you guys need to do research of who's still out there.
Yeah.
And consistent. And that's what we bring.
I know
that's what WattHub brings. That's what SunRenu brings. We bring consistency. And we'll tell you if there's not a solar deal. But then you can get with Don and you can get with other energy efficiency partners and run those calcs. So not all's lost with a customer. If solar doesn't work, you want to have a bunch of arrows in your quiver.
So there's a couple pieces of the code I want to reinforce, and please, John, if I don't cover them all, add to it. But by no means should you ever represent somebody without their explicit agreement, and make sure that that's written. So yeah, while you're researching the partners we have, and John, clearly you're the best we have right now, in my personal opinion. Yes, this is being recorded. Don't pretend you know John and his group. You don't have the SOQ. You might say this is one of our partners, but no, that's not how it works here, right? This is somebody I can introduce you to. Yeah, you're looking at a church. They have a church over here on their website. So let's remember that. That's so key. And if you are going to swim upstream and you are going to put some strategies together, either through me, Allie, who's actually teaching a class right now, so she can't be here, or through John, schedule the time and get that advice directly. Got to do it the right way. That code is so important. And I will tell you that, again, on the EPC side, John, there are a lot of people say I do it, but only a few companies like yours really stand out. I've worked with a couple good ones as well, but you don't want to be that solar bro. You need to be the solar pro.
That doesn't exist in commercial, which is good.
Right.
Well, the only time it does is when a residential company is lying to you, saying, "Oh yeah, that's easy."
And I'm looking at the VIP group, and I know there's another 100 people outside of these 20. And I know that all of us agree to those principles. Let's just be very disciplined about how we plant our roots and then how we bear that fruit through companies and partners like John's. Okay, thank you, sir. Type of one in the chat. Show me some fire lightning in there for John and his team. And then we have 15 minutes of open office hours. So it's all yours. Any VIPs want to chime in? Look at that. John, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Jabba the Pizza Hut.
Emmett, I want to jump in. Just a shout out to start with. Just a quick shout out, to Master McDonnell. I haven't been at this a long time, but enough to have interacted across the board with several different EPCs and companies. And John, I just want to say thank you for your professionalism. Thank you for your accessibility. Thank you for your truth telling, your directness. These are all things that matter deeply to me in my own journey and my own company. And you by far have superseded anybody else I have interacted with at your level. So just a huge shout out to you, my brother, for all that you've already done, and lots more to come.
Thank you very much. I could see the reflection from your iMac, and you should probably have pants on.
I do. I got pants on.
Nice.
That's good, though. You're the first person today that said
that.
Who else?
Hey, John, it's Mitch here. A couple of quick questions. You talked about the projects that don't work. What does the ideal project look like for you? I specialize in multifamily in Maryland, DC, and mainly Maryland, but DC and Virginia as well. Do you find multifamily in Maryland and DC as good possibilities?
Maryland and DC are great markets. They both give very good incentives away. I don't know where they're at currently, but it's probably in the double digits, like per kilowatt hour. So Maryland and DC is very good. So keep going after that. What I don't know in those markets is if the policy allows for virtual net metering or a aggregation method. So something that we could look up real quick. We could have our dev team kind of look into it. That would allow you to do not only both master metered apartment buildings, but individually metered apartment buildings as well. So those are two good markets. Virginia is tough. Virginia, they came out with policy a couple of years ago that said, "Oh, we allow PPAs." I'm like, that's really cool because the Carolinas don't. But we just can't make any sense of their avoided costs. They're in the 6-7 cent range for any sizable commercial. So the win is only there for the customer, and the contractor is going to lose on that.
No opinions, just facts. DCS Rex 400s, Maryland 50s,
Yeah.
really friendly policies. Again, what are you fishing for? Why are you fishing in another pond when you should be fishing there? Karen, you're up next.
Well,
Oh, sorry, Mitch. Do you have any follow-ups?
all I was going to say is, if we could do individual meters, there are a lot more of them than master meters,
Mhm.
and it makes it very, very appetizing. Are there any incentive for low income? Do you bump into that, and does that only sweeten the pie?
It does. Low income and energy community, which you're going to find it out there too. So those are both 10% adders. And then domestic content's a real thing. We haven't talked about it, but we're doing our first domestic content projects, and it's exciting because that 10% adder in tax credit
Huge.
equates to like a 15 to 20% project cost adder of what you can
Right.
sell the deal at. So you make more money than you spend with domestic content.
So
But yeah.
low to moderate income is LMI, folks,
Yep.
if you don't know the jargon. And yeah, the other 10%, so you go from 30 to 40. If it qualifies for domestic, is important too. Thanks, Mitch. We're gonna let Karen go next, and Jonah. So Karen?
Hey, I'm gonna have to listen to the recording because I was driving at the beginning and I just couldn't hear everything, but I did hear. I may want to follow up with you. I don't know if we can contact you if we need to, but this it sounded like it possibly falls into the not good category. It's a pretty substantial office building, but they have 4 electric bills and 4 meters. So is that like just
Not-
a
we'll take
problematic?
that doesn't disqualify it immediately. It depends on how much energy those 4 meters use. We might DQ one of them if they're like a small lighting meter, $100 to $200 a month. But
Right, okay.
do you know what
Yeah.
all the bills add up to?
What's the
I
avoided
think it's
cost of
over
power?
6. Well, I'm still trying to figure out on
Okay. So yeah,
energy
Karen,
uses, but it's over 6,000.
Okay,
no,
that's
what's the
that's
avoided
good.
cost of power? That's the matrix we went over earlier, I think, when you were driving. So go back and look at John's chart. The first question is, what's the avoided cost of power? If it's 10 cents or more, okay, let's talk.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. So I don't care how many meters, like, what is the avoided cost of power?
Yeah.
Then how big is the system? And then John and his team will figure out what we can sell.
Sure
Right.
can.
Mr. Jonah, and then James, and we'll wrap it up. I think. Anybody have other hands? Put them up now. Jonah.
All right, so regarding the domestic content, extra 10%, what would qualify them for that?
So it's a long and drawn out process with certifications and a bunch of backup documentation required, but
Layman's terms.
100% steel and iron. So if you're doing carports, it has to be 100% made in the US. And
Gotcha.
and then on the manufactured content is the other bucket that you need to satisfy. And manufactured content is panels and racking and inverters and wire and electrical gear and all the components. Those need to be above 40% right now on everything to satisfy domestic content.
Yep. We
Gotcha.
could do a primer on that. Jonah, that's a great question. Right now, a lot of the panels we're sourcing match that criteria.
From Georgia, right? Q-cells?
Inverters typically right now, Enphase, Tesla, those guys are fine. Batteries are kind of tricky. But yeah, I wouldn't worry about that too much because really, again, if you use the matrix, and that's the whole point of this call, what's a good, bad deal, right? They'll figure out if the domestic content is part of the solution.
Yep.
Domestic content could push it from being a not so cool deal to a cool deal.
You got it.
Probably won't push it from being a bad deal to a good deal, but that's okay. Great
And,
question, Jonah.
One other
Good job.
question real quick.
Yeah.
Can
You guys go for the 2-for-1s with John on here. I told you
I
charge some
gotta
money,
get him while I
John,
got him,
today.
Get it while the getting's good.
Did you put your Venmo in there, John? Any tips? Come on, let's tip
The
this
other
guy.
question, regarding the feasibility of it, what if the person is going for more of profitability and they're looking to overproduce for like community purposes? Is that still something you do, or is that something you avoid?
Unless the state has community solar, I believe, from my knowledge, it's one way or the other. You either blanket your property with solar and sell it as community solar, or you go behind the meter and offset your own load. There's no in between. And if you're behind the meter and you want to go above 100% production and sell it to the grid, that's the worst possible
Yeah,
thing you can do with commercial solar.
gotcha.
Yeah, Jenna, great questions. All right, James, you have a 2-for-1 or a 1-for-1?
1-for-1, Emmett. I'm easy.
All right, John's Venmo's up there if you guys want to tip him. Keep going, James.
Hey, John, this was great. I'm working with a teammate for Arizona. He has a condo complex working on, and it's a master bill. I guess this owner, he's an investor. That's why it's commercial. He deals with master bills. They're looking for a carport to help with their utility needs. I'm sure we're going to bring you in at some point. Any thoughts on it? I mean, is it going to be enough for them? The carports for the.
It depends. If I could give you a good sniff test in about 15 seconds, but I need the address and electricity bills. We can talk offline on that, but if it's a master metered condo complex, then it falls on the constructability. So is it constructible, and do they pay enough in avoided cost and in solar savings to make it, to push it into that higher $3 plus watt cost per watt? Arizona's my backyard, so I can give you a sniff test in 2 seconds.
That'd be great. Yeah, we'll get you going with that. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, submit it to Surge, and then I'll jump right on it.
Okay, we'll do. Thank you.
Okay, folks, that's about it. Again, give it up for John and his team, and we appreciate your leadership. Imagine ourselves a month from now with another 100 subscribers. You're the first 107. Looking at the report right now, and February's bringing 1 to 4 deals in a month, and using the proper matrix that John has taught us. Oof. Imagine just another month. Wow. Awesome. Everybody surge forward. Appreciate everybody. Have a great holiday weekend. Thanks again, John.
Thank you all.
All right, bye.